First thing first, Dion. How are you?
Good, man. How are you? I'm actually great. Thank you for asking. How are you?
That is very good to hear. Yeah, I'm doing okay as well. Had a rough night, but
Good.
I'm okay. um,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I didn't sleep too well, but it's not important. Before we jump into the album, I'd like to go back to kind of your beginnings. Now, I believe that you started your fascination with music by with a guitar your father had. What impressed you by that instrument?
It was just something new, seeing him pick up a guitar and even just strum a couple chords. It was just like, even though it wasn't much, it was just mind blowing to hear the sound right in front of you and see that, it's like even possible, because you see these things on TV or whatever, and you're just like, I don't know. It seems like a lot. And then when you see your own pops do it, it's just like, wow. And there's a guitar sitting there readily available for you to pick up and tool around on. And yeah, that definitely changed my life for sure.
So once you were fascinated, did you immediately kind of know this is it for me, or did that take a while?
I think it was kind of like a culmination of everything, seeing him strum around a little bit and show me some things definitely opened me up into that world. I definitely started paying a lot more attention to music in general and everything. And, as I've kind of told everybody else, I went to a private school growing up, Catholic school that incorporated part of the curriculum was, you had music class. So like, um, it was mostly geared towards singing since, the kids went to church once a week or whatever. And so, yeah, like the culmination of all these things put together just had me paying attention to things that, otherwise I wouldn't have. So, whether it's the singing in the bands that I was listening to or the groups or even the instrumentals and stuff, it just, it just made me pay attention a lot more.
Did you sing early in your life?
Yes. Yeah. Like, as I mentioned, I went to Catholic school from, I don't know, kindergarten, real little kid to almost high school, eighth,
Mm.
past elementary. It's like K through 8, K through 9, something like that. So that whole time I was taking those music classes, and within those music classes like I said, it was, they went over, they touched on guitar, they touched on, those kind of basic things, but mostly it was they were vocal lessons basically. They kind of just taught you the fundamentals of mouth shape and where to project from, what feels right and what you should and shouldn't do and how that feels, and just like the kind of the building blocks. And after that, I really fell in love with like listening to certain kinds of singers, Michael Jackson and Boyz II Men, a lot of R&B stuff growing up before I really dove into rock and metal. So yeah, it
Yeah,
definitely it opened my ears to all that and kind of just taught me the basics.
I suppose once you get to that age, more teenage years, you start to develop your own interest in music and kind of venture out in it. So when you discovered the more heavier music, what was that like for you? What did you find in it?
It's funny actually, because I was, like I said, I was more into the pop and R&B and stuff and hip hop growing up. And my sister, who's a few years older than I, she actually turned me on to one of the first like Sevendust albums, with like Black and Bitch and like those songs. That album, I think it was self-titled. And yeah, like I just fell in love with it. I loved the heavy music, and I loved the fact that they were incorporating like such melody over that kind of stuff. So that I was instantly, even to this day, that's kind of what draw me to be a fan of Bad Wolves before I was in the band. They kind of use that same, it's in that same family, right? Just very heavy, down tuned, but still such a great sense of melody. So like I've always been kind of drawn to that.
It's interesting that you say that because I remember seeing a clip of John talking about you and then saying kind of what he appreciates and what you bring to the table. And one of the things he mentioned was a certain pop sensibility. So is that something
Sure.
you always try to put into the music, the more melodic elements?
Yeah, I don't even know if it's as much of a conscious thing. I don't set out to do that. I think that's just with my musical background and just upbringing and all that stuff considered, it just kind of comes naturally to me. That's just how I sing, and even like the little nuances and my vibrato and stuff. That's just what I do. I don't think I couldn't do it. Like I actually, it's funny when I do try, like, because I guess sometimes that's not it's not applicable in every scenario, right? So like even when I try to not do that, it's really hard for me. Like it just comes so natural. So yeah, like R&B and pop, it
seems to be freezing a little bit.
I still got you on this end.
Oh yeah, okay. You're still there, but it's kind of a little bit choppy, but that's okay. So when you played for about 13 years, I believe, for 12 years in Acacia Strain, the Acacia Strain. Yep. Did you have any singing ambitions while you were in that band?
It's actually funny that you mentioned that, because there was quite a few times actually earlier on in the band when we were first kind of still figuring out what we wanted to be and developing our sound and stuff. So I believe on the record 3750, it's the first album that we did with Adam Duckowitz from Killswitch Engage. He really helped develop the band's sound and stuff too. But I think even after the fact, or before that, before we came into the studio with him, we were demoing stuff, and we were all huge fans of Blood Has Been Shed, Howard Jones' previous band to Killswitch Engage. And they kind of incorporated that. I mean, they were super, super dissonant and just had the really heavy, dirty songs, but they found a way to have Howard do like clean singing on it. So, and we were huge. I know myself, I was a huge fan of that, that approach to that style of music. So, yeah, earlier on in the band, I actually demoed, there's a couple of Acacia Strain songs from 3750 that I demoed clean singing on, and it just wasn't it wasn't the vision for the band as a whole. So we just kind of shelved it, and ever since then, I did the product. Once I left Acacia Strain, I ended up being I fell in love with the behind the scenes, the creative process, and the producing. So in my own studio since then, I've just been writing all my own music and stuff, and always kind of singing on it, and just creating songs that I would like to listen to. So yeah, that's kind of where that all started. Okay. I just kind of ran with it myself and shelved it until now.
From a producer standpoint, then, what have you found did you gravitate towards? Well, what was kind of because there's so many, especially as a producer, there's so many options you have, I suppose. So what did you notice about what you liked in certain music, or what you wanted to bring out in a song?
In regards to actually taking on that as a career, or
well, just in general, in your approach to music, I guess.
Or just in general. I think, it depends on what you're working on. Some things that you get called on to be a producer for, some things they come across your desk and it like feels almost done, because some people just have the experience and that sense of arrangement and stuff. And other times it's just it's generally just a means of trimming the fat, so to speak, on certain songs and stuff. And sometimes there's just, there's a 5-minute song that really shouldn't be 5 minutes. It should be closer to 3 minutes or something like that. There's just extra weight in songs that don't need to be there. I guess it's just, it's helping an artist or a band be the best version of themselves. So I think that's definitely the job description as far as being a producer or just working in production in general.
And then now joining Bad Wolves and being the frontman, does that background in producing help you, or did it help with the creation of the new album?
Yeah, absolutely. Even when I'm tracking beyond the instrumentals and the arrangements of the project and everything. It's just even when you're tracking vocals, even the first day I came in to start tracking vocals for Dear Monsters, you know, we worked with Joseph McQueen and Josh Gilbert. They both work at Sparrow Sound. They own it. They co-own the studio, and they're both producers in their own right. And it was funny because like the first day we started tracking and everything, and you kind of it's hard, especially for me, you know, it's hard to not even assume, it's hard to not assume that role as you're tracking. So, you know, I would take a line or something, I'd do a line in the vocal booth, and I would catch something that somebody that doesn't have that experience in the producer, you know, background and everything, that they wouldn't catch it. The producer would have to say, hey, you know, that line was a little sharp or flat, do that again or something. But I was catching things right away, and hey, can I redo that line? And it was funny because Joseph and Josh, they were just like, oh, well, you're producing yourself right now. So that kind of thing definitely you know, pushes you, it pushes you a little like ahead of the curve when it comes to putting things together in the studio, because you know what to listen for.
Right. And now you did contribute to the previous album, Nation, as well.
Yeah, a little bit.
What was the approach? Because obviously you knew the guys, then you become the new frontman. What was your approach and collectively in terms of songwriting? What did you want out of this album?
So the writing process, it's definitely different than anything I've been a part of. I came in to the writing process of Dear Monsters quite late, actually, because they've been writing this for over a year. I mean, maybe even close to 2. So it's just been a kind of a long, drawn out thing, especially with everything going on with the band. And I think the collaborative process between the band and I like really started once I came to track vocals for the record, because then we finally had a chance to all sit down and really just put every section, every aspect of every song under a microscope. So we kind of just, like I said, you know, we trimmed some fat, we moved parts around, we did arrangement stuff as we were going, especially because I'm such a different singer than the former singer, that, you know, we have a similar, we kind of live in the same range, but we have different styles. So, you know, we had to really tailor the songs kind of for me, and to make them like make sense and feel good and stuff. But it's, you know, at that same time you kind of walk the line, right? So it's like you want to try new things, but you still want to maintain the core values of what the band built with their 2 previous records and stuff. So it's a tightrope walk for sure.
Right, because I imagine a song like Springfield Summer, it feels like it has your fingerprints over it a little bit. So a song like that, which is, I suppose, especially for a heavy rock band or a metal band, it's I don't know if it's a risk, but it's a departure of kind of what people might expect from you. So what was the approach with a song like Springfield Summer?
I think that was just us as a collective, me personally, and then us as a collective band, them just having a new singer and being able to do a song like that at this point, because it's I guess that's kind of like I touched upon before. It's like, you know, the former singer of the band and then we just have different styles. So I think it was just kind of fun to stretch either which way, you know, a little bit. And that song actually was put together after the fact. I think I already had finished tracking most of my vocals for Dear Monsters, and then we decided to throw that song into the fold, and I tracked it in my studio, and it just felt good. You know, it felt like the album as a whole needed something like that, because there's a lot of it's a very, I tell everybody, it's a very eclectic record, so it has a lot of peaks and valleys, and it just felt good to put that song where it is on the record. Kind of just happened really naturally, honestly.
Yeah, sorry that I interrupted. Is that an important thing when you're creating an album like this to look at the dynamics and the way songs kind of flow into each other and yeah, how the album as a cohesive whole fits together?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some people may not care about that, but I know for certain, like, especially when I'm, looking forward to one of my favorite band's records or something, I definitely pay attention to how the album is sequenced and it makes me wonder, like, why did they put this song first, second, third? It just, I think it really can make or break the momentum of an album. So that's very important for sure, I think.
As a vocalist, I can imagine, especially when you join a new band, it can be somewhat nerve-wracking. So for you, is there one take or recording that ended up on the album that you're really happy with, or there's maybe something that you struggled with and eventually kind of found a perfect way to do it?
So it's kind of a two-parter. So I think one of the tracks that I'm most happy with is Wildfire. Basically because just that song in general, the way it's set up and the tempo of it and how I have to sing that chorus and everything, that kind of song is really it's just fun and almost easy for me to sing, right? So because I just feel like I kind of excel at like the kind of soaring choruses and like letting notes kind of hang and stuff. So that's that kind of song. And that was a lot of fun to put that one together. But I think where I struggle the most, if I had to be honest, is I'm still fairly obviously in this band there's a lot of aggressive singing, screaming, and in between there's even some pitched screams, and so there's a lot of new stuff, a lot of new territory for me even, and it was hard to, especially in the tracking, it was hard to kind of figure out what days I wanted to do what at, because if there was a day that I had to sing a lot, I definitely wanted to stay away from screaming, even though I'm at this point speaking with Melissa Cross and fine tuning everything. On those days I didn't want to scream, just to be sure that I wasn't affecting my clean singing voice and vice versa. So I definitely tried to separate the two within the tracking process, with enough days in between and rest and stuff. So yeah, that can get kind of tricky, and it's going to be something that I'm even moving forward with touring and stuff that I'm going to have to kind of still figure out, because up until now, as much as I've sang, I've done a lot of studio singing, so it's whole different world as opposed to a 30-day tour singing every day. So singing and screaming every day. So we'll see. Maybe the beer will help. Who knows?
have you had a chance to play a couple of shows live? I'm not sure what the current state is where you're.
No, we haven't yet. No, we haven't yet. We're kind of just we're really adamant on focusing on the release of the album right now and kind of taking one thing at a time. There's just so much going on that it's just like not even worth to, inundate ourselves with stress and like just try and dump everything out at once. I think it's just the most important thing at hand right now is getting this album out and, that the whole setup with that. So that's important to us.
Right. Very selfishly, I'd like to jump into Comatose, which is my favorite song on the album. So
man, that's I mean, I've done quite a few interviews up until now, and that's funny that's becoming a common theme.
Well, it's
cool to hear.
From my perspective, it's also it's very relatable. I think a lot of people can relate to that song in terms of the themes, and then the music fits so well around it. I would say so. What was I don't know where you were in that whole process of creating that song, but how do you perceive that song? What is your feeling when you hear that song, or when as you were working on it?
It's just one of those tracks, it's like a darker track. I think it's one of those things, like I said before, it kind of separates itself from the rest of the tracks, and therefore it stands out. And yeah, it's just one of those dark tracks that I think it's kind of open for interpretation, but loosely touches upon addiction and depression and the deep things that aren't talked about enough. So yeah, I just instrumentally it's you know, with not negatively saying it, but it has that like kind of zany sound to it. It's just I think that's what drew us to it. It was different. And and even the vocal in it is a lot different than the rest of the song. So yeah, it was just felt like it was needed.
Right. And now you kind of alluded to it, but focusing on the release of this album and in the back of your mind with kind of the changes that the band went through and everything, is this now a nerve-wracking period, or are you guys really excited to finally get this new album out?
I think it's a little bit of everything, you know. It's easy to pay attention to all the noise and get kind of sucked into that, but I tend to not, you know. I try to stay away from the internet and comments and all that stuff. It's just I don't have the mental energy for all that crap. So it's just I try and stay away from that stuff. And I think more than anything, the whole camp, you know, label, band, myself, I think we're all just really excited to move forward and show everybody what we got, because this is definitely you know, I can't speak for the rest of the band, but I can speak for myself in saying that it's I've never been more proud of a record and putting together a project. And these guys in the band, man, they're all so damn talented, and I just very grateful. So I think, you know, grateful and excited moving forward for sure.
Final question then: when you hear the title "Dear Monsters," what do you think of?
I think that's another thing that's kind of open to interpretation, but I believe it's just, you know, everybody, every day, somebody, you know, everybody has their own personal monsters, personal demons, and every day we're all trying to figure out how to confront that. And you know, I've even said that I've had to confront my own personal monsters or demons coming into this process. You know, it's just to like feel kind of empowered enough to take this role on. So I think, you know, some people are worried they're going to lose. They wake up in the morning, they're worried that they're going to lose their job that day. You know, so it runs the gamut. Everybody has personal monsters, and I think the overall theme is to confront that, and that's what it is. You're kind of mentally, internally or externally, whatever it is, you're penning a letter to your dear monsters. You know, you're kind of speaking to your inner demons. So,
yeah, with that in mind, what role does music play then in combating those monsters for you?
It's huge. I couldn't live without music. It's so therapeutic for me, whether it's making it or listening to it. You know, all of these songs will probably speak differently to every person that hears them. That's why, you know, especially when I'm supposed to when I'm asked what does this mean, or what does this song title mean, or it's just, I don't want to ruin that for anybody, because a lot of times everybody kind of comes up with it speaks to everybody a little bit differently. So it's I think that's important to just kind of draw your own conclusion and you know, to take that and it kind of makes it special for each person, each listener. So yep, music is therapy for sure.
Fair enough. DL, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me, and yeah, I wish you all the best with the release of the record. Must be exciting.
Appreciate it. Anytime, man. Thanks for having me.